So at one point, I outgrew that space, believe it or not. I had a couple of employees and there was a lot going on. So I overflowed into the dentist's office. I got a really good deal on the space, so I don't mind having to go through the dentist's waiting room to get to my workshop. So here's the beginning of the workshop. Okay, there's a lot going on in here, and this is where like my secrets are revealed, because I'm going to show you how I make harmonicas and some of the kind of half-completed experimental harmonicas. So let's start with the TurboSlide. I'm not actually going to make a TurboSlide, but just kind of show you how I do it. You work here at this upright desk. Start with a comb, a pair of plates, one plate, two plates. Okay, they get screwed together. Then we go over here and we grab one of the actual slides. That gets tapped and it gets filled with these magnetic set screws. Each one of these cost me over $1. So this is like $1,000 worth of brass and neodymium in that little bucket. Here I made a little fixture so I could tap 4 of them at one time. Then I typically go home, put them in a baggie, go home with the nut driver, and while watching TV is when I assemble them, because it's kind of time consuming. So once that's completed, it goes into this position, it gets these screws and these spacers, like so. I kind of skipped a step. And then it gets tuned. So I typically tune it here with an electronic tuner. And then whether the customer ordered a standard session steel or a, we call it the Turbo Deluxe, we either give them a Seidel session steel cover plate that I've notched out on the bandsaw, or they get a turbo lid that's been notched out using this milling machine and this fixture. So in other words, I grab cover plate, it goes into the fixture goes into the vise, and then I have a special end mill that I make this notch. So in summary, it's rather time consuming. After having made probably like 500 or 1,000 of them, it's become a little more streamlined, a little less trial and error, so I can make them a little bit less expensively. So you can see I have various other tools in the shop. The sander is used all the time, a little milling machine. In no particular order, this is a test sheet of different adhesives, because I'm kind of an adhesive fanatic. There's all different kinds of adhesives, and these are the samples. This is an ongoing project. There's actually 2 projects in here. One is the tunable harmonica, and the other is something that people keep asking me for, is a TurboSlide that allows you to bend the draw nodes. And I started working on that. I think it kind of works. Take my word for it. So I started working on it, and I got distracted, and the rest is history. Here are some of my notes. Because I'm so absent-minded and forgetful, I have to remind myself where the holes go and where the magnets go, and I need to remember to cut pieces off of parts when I assemble them. You'll see I have more such notes over here, and over here. This is a little welder that I was using at one point to assemble the AX. I have an AX, I think, at this desk, so let's go over here. So this is a space I'm obviously doing a lot of assembly work, and I'm also doing a lot of R&D. Most everything's under a microscope. Also in here are various experiments leading to the AX, in which I experimented with spot facing the reed plate so as to allow the reed to be buried deeper into the plate and tighten up the airflow. There was different kinds of spot facings. Then I remember one day on my way home, I got this inspiration. Rather than go through the painstaking process, at one point I was actually removing all of the reeds, spot facing them, screwing them back on. Instead of going through that process, I just started adding tape to either side of the flanks of the reeds. And that's what gave rise, ultimately, to, over here, the turbo liner, which goes around all of the reeds on the blow plate and on the draw plate and results in the AX. So the one on the blow plate is hidden, and there's the one on the draw plate that if you've ever owned or played or seen an AX, that's kind of the trademark. What else is going on over here? Yes, in a desperate attempt to magnetize the brass Special 20s, you can see there's multiple attempts here. I thought of actually plating the reed plates with chromium. It happens to be a plater up the street. And it resulted in a beautiful reed plate. And surprisingly, it plays remarkably well. In fact, I brought this to Spa one year and kind of accidentally left it on the table, assembled, of course. Someone picked it up and played it, and he said, "This is the best playing harmonica at the entire convention." And it was an unintended consequence of the plating process. But once again, to really turn an idea into a product that you could make, in any kind of volume, it's a big step going from an idea to a successful product. I think I mentioned that I was burying the reed into the reed plate, and one way in which I was doing that, that's in here. What's here? Peened. Okay, so this one, they're all labeled with the experiment that I was conducting. Okay, this one, instead of removing the plate, spot facing it and putting the reeds back on, I meant to say removing the reed, spot facing, put the reed back on, I was peening the root of all of these plates into the reed plate. And I was doing that, you swing you around to this little arbor press. So I had a specially made arbor press that allows me to put plate in, pull a lever, and you can kind of see all of these roots have been kind of dented. And that works remarkably well, but with every kind of new invention or new idea comes consequence, and the consequence is then it needs to be retuned, and that's just too time consuming. So I kind of dropped the ball on that. All right, I think the next stop I'm going to take you on is the electronic shop. So stay tuned for that.